So happy to have you all here today. Hey, last night I put together a new video, and if you're not a member of our YouTube community, um, please encourage you to participate in that. We're going to talk a little bit about this morning. Put a link in the YouTube description here, or a link about the video that'll get you to it. As many of you know, we've been using a relatively innovative technique to predict when the S&P will be going up, when it will be going down, and I've been very aggressive. Very aggressive in terms of posting things to that channel and sharing techniques with people that I normally keep close to the vest. And so if you've been following the YouTube channel, you know that we have been tracking these solar cycles along the way as we move forward in time. We know with reasonable certainty when the next dates are coming up. And so I'm going to just take away a bunch of stuff here and go over with you really quick where the solar cycles are in place for the ES. And I want to share some thoughts with you. And then we'll go back and look at things on a daily cycle marker analysis. We'll look at end of day analyses for longer term trades, swing trades, stocks, forex pairs. We'll work things down to smaller time frames, 1 hour, 60 minute, 30 minute. Then we'll work our way down to an intraday analysis. So the software is going to stretch its legs this morning. We're going to look at multiple time frames to show you how those analyses would pay off. We'll look at different markets to show that the software works across different markets. And just to give you a sense, if you're looking at us today, that there's a lot you can do with one thing. And I can teach you how to do any of those things, but it has to start with you. Okay? So the solar cycle indicator, as you know, is based off of the number of sunspots on the surface of the sun, the radiation that leaves the sun and arrives at Earth. It's basically a cause-effect relationship. People are more inclined to purchase when they're bathed in that energy, and they're less inclined to buy when that energy is pulling back and away from them. And so we can track when those energy cycles will arrive, those undulations of energy as they reach the Earth. And it sounds very hocus pocus, hippy dippy, crystal rubbing, tree hugging type analysis, but the math just kind of bears it out. So what I wanted to point out real quick, if you are following that cycle on the YouTube channel, that there are some pretty important things in play here. Number one, yesterday the market closed and it was a pattern 4. And I go into that in the video in some detail about what's important about that and why we expect it. But I want you to see what happened the last time we had a pattern 4 on the solar cycle. And I'm just going to go ahead and direct everyone's attention over here real quick. So we had a pattern number 4 over on this side of things, and we had a pattern number 4 on this side of things. And so if you look with me real quick, you'll notice that there are some similarities to the market in relation to what happened over here and what's happening over here on the ES. Is this, and before I continue, is this anything anybody's really interested in, or would you rather just look at other markets that aren't related to a weird solar cycle thing? Okay. Carrie says, go with it, we'll go with it. Okay. So over on the left, we had a few, remember this is all related to the number of sunspots on the surface of the sun. And so the sun has a lot of notoriety lately with the eclipse and whatnot, and so we've been looking at it now for a really long time. But I want you to notice, just like we have Adam in the past, Tim, Carrie, JD, Barry, that even though these signals are based on the number of sunspots on the surface of the sun, we're using the same techniques that we use and we're going to use here with the daily cycle marker tool or the Orion tool or any of our end-of-day tools. And that's essentially this idea that a pattern repeats, right? So over here back in February and March, we had a buying pressure signal with trend. Carry, it moved up into a selling pressure signal that consolidated. Then there was a stop run. There was a buying pressure signal, another attempt up, and then a crash. Okay, so I'll walk you through the 4 steps. Ready? Step 1 was a buying pressure signal. Step 2 was an even higher high just after the selling pressure signal. We had a retracement down into a buying pressure signal. Then we had another push up into the high. And then a crash down into the pattern 4. Can everybody see that? There are some things that are unique to each of those patterns. Number 1 is the run up. Number 1 is the run up. So here's the run up. And one of the things that we can do is we can measure how far the run up was the first time. So I'm going to go from the low of the candle here to the high of the run right here. And that was initially, what was that, $59? And so up here I want you to see, Carrie, can you read that value from where you're at? Anybody think that's a coincidence? It's $58. Okay, now I'm not counting this spike high right here. I want to go right up to the red signal. Okay, that's what I'm doing, from the green signal to the red signal, which are based on sunspot cycles, right? So now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to measure from here to the pullback. So from here to the bottom of the pullback, it went $16. Okay, so from the high here to the bottom of the pullback, it went $23. Okay, now from the low to the high, it went $37. From the low to the high, it went $30. So, Carrie, it's fairly scalar, right? Now, the last time it fell down into its lowest low, we went $71 $72, right? And now I want you to see here, we've gone 66 so far. No, it's not a factor of 2 or 3 or half. I mean, we're within 5 points. Even the differences are the same. Jason notes, yeah. So there are some similarities in this. And when we find a constellation of time patterns like this, what do? The first thing is we take a note as to which direction the pattern moves next. And the next direction the pattern moves is back up into the crotch of the pullback between the double tops. We go back up into the crotch. And so for us, that would take us all the way back into the 69 area, the 65 area. So in my mind, when I look at this, it went down 72 ticks from drop. Here it's only gone down 66. 6 more points below that would be 16, 42, 16 area. So even if we fall a little bit more, the potential for it to go how much higher? Is pretty high. So you're looking at from 21 to 65, you're looking at 40, 44, right? No, 54, almost $2,000 per contract in the ES. So that's what I see on that chart. The only thing that makes me slightly cautious is that in the original pattern carry, the market stabilizes here for 1, 2, 3, and then on the 4th day there's a stop run. So in context, I do see the low here yesterday being punctured a little bit and then leapt away from and then dropped down before the launch. So let's take a look at what those values involve. If this pattern was copied 100%, which they never really ever are 100% copies, but we can get a feel for it, right? And so right here, look, there's the bottom. Here's the first bottom that we're looking at. And then it pulls down, kind of dinks around, goes up right away, dinks around, slashes down. But remember, we measured this whole leg down, that whole exhaustion leg, to be 71. So inside of here from that high all the way down right now is that 66. So inside of this area, now it has the potential to do what? It has the potential to do this. Down, up, something like this, back down, and then carry. It has the ability to do that. And then something like this, right? So can everybody see the similarities between those two patterns and what we are potentially expecting here? There is a stop run day coming if this pattern plays out, and the $66 wasn't enough. But as of right now, the scale of it all is pretty darn close to what we were looking at earlier back here in February. And then again, like I said, there haven't been very many pattern 4s in the sunspot cycle this year at all. And as I go back and look, it's been pure. If anything, most cycles have been pure. We had one pattern 5, but we talked about that in the video. So let me show you here real quick. The last time we had a pattern 5, let's put a box around it, right? There's only ever been one that I could see since the sunspot cycle, maximum in 2014. So this Jimmy Jobby right here, JD, I want you to compare it to what we're looking at over here. Okay, so JD, you see that pattern number 5 right here? Green dot and then the drop. Okay. So what I'll try to do real quick, if Ninja 8 will let me, is open a new chart real quick just for us to compare. Daily chart, 365. I'll put 10 years of that. No templates. There we go. Okay. So the pattern in question kicked in back over here, right? There it is. So that was April 21st of 2016. I hate this platform. April 21st of 2016. Here we go. Okay, so over here was this sunspot cycle, and it was a higher high right there. And right here. Okay, there was the green dot, so it was right there and right there. Okay, all 3 of those. All right, so now we got that. Come over here to the present. And Jay, check it out. Banks run plays like football coaches run plays. The movements are all very similar, right? So Carrie, I want you to see, in relation to what was over here, what sort of took place. And I want you all just to look, let your eye kind of focus on this real quick. Ready? I'm going to take a circle here. I'm going to put it there. And I'm going to take a circle here. And I'm going to put it here. Okay. Then Carrie, I'm going to put a little circle here. And a little circle here. JD, you see the double top test right there. I'm going to put a medium circle here, and I'm going to put a medium circle here. For the love of all that's holy, Ninja Trader, gosh, medium circle there. Okay. Then Adam over here, I'm going to put big circle. And then Adam over here, I'm going to put big circle. You guys saw that I'm staying draw mode, right? Okay. Now, Carrie, big drop down, big drop down. Stop run candle. Stop run candle, right? How far off am I on that? Am I having to fudge it to make it work? So this was a pattern 5 way back in April. Now this wasn't a pattern 5, but the pattern is identical, meaning everything here is kind of similar, from the way the highs move to the large plunge candles afterwards to everything else involved. So what we're seeing right now here in August and September is an echo. It's a rhyme. It's a copy, a Xerox copy of patterns that have occurred that the banks are running a second time, right up to and including, Carrie, I wanted you to see this right there. JD, you see how that candle comes down? And that's the panic candle. Over here, look. There's the candle that comes down. The panic candle. So I think right now, Carrie, we're at this point in the cycle where there's an initial push, there's an initial back up, there's some dinking around with some lower lows, and then a panic. Can you see here, JD, how from the high to this low is about $74? The scale is kind of close, right? This one's a little bigger. There's $80. Right? Okay. So that's the first thing I wanted you to see. If you go back, if you're an Emini S&P trader and you look at the pattern from April 21st to May 6th, and you compare it to the pattern that's been taking place from February 13th to March 27th, you'll see that there are some striking similarities to what took place between those two. I don't know what we would call this. What if we call it the inchworm pattern, Carrie? Because when you look at it, guys, doesn't it look like this? It looks like there's a tail, and then the inchworm body is compressed, and then there's kind of this inchworm head right here. Can you see it when I draw it like that? Melissa is kind of sitting on a branch. Maybe there's a leaf over here. It's a happy little inchworm. Hello, inchworm. We're so happy for you and your price action. You have a nice long tail and you've curled up your body right here. And you have another little curling up right here. You're snuggling on your little branch. And then you're sitting here eating your leaves. It's very peaceful indeed. So that inchworm pattern, if you compare it to what's going on over here, right? The same thing is going on. That kind of coiling up, and then the head is sort of somewhere over here. Okay? So all of that to say, we're sort of dealing with that inchworm pattern right here. There's his tail, and there's calling up his little body. Yeah, and now it comes down, and here's the second time on the branch, and we're watching for when the little inchworm poopies come out just before he wakes up and goes out and eats some more leaves up at the top of the tree. It's so stupid, but you get 4 hours of sleep and come up here and sound amazing. If you can think of a better example, I'm all ears. Whatever helps you remember it, but that's what we're looking at. Okay? That's what we're looking at using the solar cycle indicator. That drop down now. It would not surprise me to see that. So let's get out of NinjaTrader 8. Yeah, I'll save the workspace. Sure. Let's open up NinjaTrader 7. Keep your eyes on that inchworm pattern, people. And we'll go take a look at two other indicators that are end-of-day tools. End-of-day tools that help us analyze markets and understand what the banks have planned. They have a plan. Nothing is random. You were taught for years. I shouldn't say nothing is random. Almost nothing is random. You've been taught for years by gurus that we need to do certain things because the markets are a certain way, and they're not. They're really not what you were told by these other guys. Gurus are like banks in the sense that they need to create a perception that you need them. There are men and women in the world who have websites, and their entire model is based off of the idea that if you don't have me, where would you be in life? If you didn't have me, if I wasn't here as your guru, I feel sorry for you. I don't know what you would do if I wasn't as amazing as I am. Because anything could happen, and what would happen if you guys were out here all by yourself? And so what I want to show you is a universe where that's not true. I don't really need you. So I need the Flex 60-minute workspace. And I think I've got one, 8:16. Let's try that. Load it up. So please learn everything you can while you're here with me. I teach you so you'll have it, and hopefully one day in the very near future not need me. That's my hope. It is my hope and desire. Okay. You bear with me 1 minute. I just need to go get a file off my Dropbox. YouTube workspace 0809. Copy. Okay, so that was 9 days ago, right? YouTube workspace. Paste. 0809. Just try this real quick. There we go. Okay. So there are wonderful tools at our disposal that are designed specifically to help uncover when banks are about to do something. And Adam, on an investor scale, one of them is called the Flex Daily Cycle Marker tool. And we say investor scale because there are people that are looking at longer term positions that want to understand when the market is likely to go up or likely to go down, things of that nature, right? For trades that they're holding for a while. Or to get a general sense or flow what to expect over the next week or so, over the next 10 days or so. And so I'm going to apply the tool, and somehow along the way that word got corrupted in the forums. If you say to somebody indicator, you'll get 100 guys, one forum in particular, crawling out of the woodwork saying, "You think you can make money with an indicator? You have to use your price action. You have to use higher highs and lower lows, and you have to..." Indicators got a really bad name at one point because there were 100,000 vendors selling piece of junk indicators. Okay, so now I want to walk you through how this tool works really quickly, and we're going to actually learn something about this market as we use it. This is the Emini S&P, and the Emini S&P has a series of red and green dots on it. Now, what you need to remember about these dots is that they were known, their location, their time, their color, weeks into the future. Okay? So how do I know that? Well, let's get a moving average on here real quick, and I'll walk you through how easy this can be if you let it. Hello, Mr. Black EMA. I want you to be a different color. There we go. So on this chart, we have a series of candles that are surrounded by a bunch of dots. Everywhere you see a little green dot is a phase 1. Everywhere you see a large green dot, guess what that one's going to be? Big stretch of the imagination, phase 2. Everywhere you see a little red dot, Adam, is a phase 3, and everywhere you see a large red dot is a phase 4. And I want you to think of that like the seasons of the year, how they repeat over and over again, right? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then what's coming next in the upper right hand corner? 3 days, 9 hours. 3 days, 9 hours. 3 days, 9 hours is the phase 4. So it's telling us in the future when the next signal will be here. So if we know when the dot is coming in the future, how much does the news affect what happens in relation to that dot? If we know when the next phase is coming in the future, how much does the FOMC report affect price action when we get to that dot? Is it the chicken or the egg? These are things you should think about. Okay. Now, when we're looking at these signals, I want you to see that all the patterns I taught last night, all the patterns in your histogram guidebook that are in your handouts section, all of these patterns that I teach you in this 30-something page book are on here. What do I mean by that? Well, number one, there was a pattern 5 right here on the ES, a higher high green dot on candle number 3 of the phase 2. We also had what? A pattern 5 over here and a pattern 5 over here. We had a pattern 4 over here, just like we did over here. We also, if we look back, had a pattern 4 over here and here. So using the 4 phases of the daily cycle marker tool, we have a clear sense of when to expect certain things. And so on the ES, if we stretch it out, I want you to notice that a couple things have been taking place using the daily cycle marker tool. Number one, they drove down into this low right here. They drove down into this low. So the close of this bar and the close of this bar matter. Not right now, we're not anywhere near it, Jay, but trust me, it'll matter. Then we drove up into this high. So we have the pattern 5 up here. And then JD, you see how that candle was a pattern 5 too? I'm going to put a blue line right there. There's another pattern 5 up here. So Carrie, what I've discovered, this is sort of a new thing. Tim, what I've discovered is when there is a pattern 4 or 5, the banks are pushing like a mom with a kid in the store that has to make sure, or a dad with a kid in the store that has to make sure they get a certain thing before they leave, before the kid has a meltdown. We need milk, we need bread, we need chicken. Come on, sweetie, come on, come on. No, 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 I promise. When we get home, we're going to have ice cream. Come on, 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 come on. And so they push people to a level. They're kind of pushing them through the store. Now, Jay, do you notice anything unusual about what happens around those levels? I'm going to take the signals off. And I'm going to take the arrows off. And if this is a little complicated, just hang in there, okay? Carrie, I want you to notice what happens around these price levels. And I want you to look with me real quick to see where the touches and rejections are, right? So we'll make this a different color so it pops out, maybe orange or something. I don't know. Where's orange? There it is, orange. Jay, I want you to notice how price reacts to this level And I want you to notice how price reacts to the lower level. You see how it contained price inside of here, Carrie, for a super long time? The bars, the bodies, how they're kind of hovering in here, like a fish in an aquarium that has nowhere to go. And then when it closed underneath, how that price contained all the candles here. Well, then we broke above it and disappeared. This is when the banks took the kids to the next store. And we pushed them to the next store. Come on in, we got to get school supplies. Oh, Susie's going to have a meltdown. Okay, make sure we get the pencils before we leave. And now this level comes in. And Jay, watch. There, there, and there. And so now we're right back down to these places. The bank is pushing prices to these levels back and forth. There's nothing natural about this. When you see 4s and 5s, the bank is creating a range. Let me say that again. When you see 4s and 5s, the bank is creating a range. There's the 5, and we just had it a second ago. There's the 4. Okay. Previously, here was the 4, and here was the 5. That hole, we're going to trend for a while, slows down. And then there was one, sorry, the 5 was over there. Okay. When you see a 4 or 5, take note of the price. On a 5-minute chart, on a 1-minute chart, on a 3-minute chart, that price is the bank pushing artificially to a level that's important to it. Everybody on board so far? Now, I'm going to put the indicator back on. And we're going to see some more stuff here. Okay. Every cycle marker has a resistance level associated with it. Every cycle marker has a resistance level associated with it. So when that day closes, JD, you see how there's a horizontal line that's sticking out to the right from the close of that time day? Right here. And then that line extends out to the right over here. Okay. If you look at where all the lines are for each of the days, I want you to notice where those matrix lines were, where those pattern 4 and 5 lines were just a moment ago, right? We'll get rid of this. And I want you to see where price has been bouncing back and forth between in relation to those lines, these daily cycle marker lines. And then I'm going to put the matrix or the pattern 4 or 5 lines up here. So we have a network of time, but we also have a network of price that is derived from time. And so, Carrie, right now in that pullback that we were just looking at with the solar cycles, I want you to see all those lines in this area right here. You can almost see where the bounces are likely to take place. right? There's a cluster of it there, and there's a cluster of it here, which just happens to be near our two blue lines right now. So we've done analyses of the ES in the past, and I want to see if I can find it here so we don't have to start from scratch. That's our futures workspace. I want the 60-minute workspace. Yep, here we go. Okay, how many of you remember this analysis from prior weeks that we've been doing together, right? Okay. Who remembers the name of the pattern that we gave this? It was very memorable. It was not an inchworm. Okay. We called this the puking llama. I think I spelled that right. The puking llama. And if you don't know why we called it that, it's probably not important. So much like we did with the solar cycles, we were able to identify a pattern that was repeating and recurring. So back here between February and May of 2017, we had a very identifiable pattern. There was an angle here, we called it home base, and the pattern started out at the lower left corner with a phase 4, and then J up here we had a phase 4. See it? At the top of the pattern we had a phase 3. At the top of the pattern we had a phase 3. Okay? Then we drove down into the bottom of home base. Then we drove down into the bottom of home base. We left home base by the phase 2. We left home base by the phase 2. And then we proceeded to bing, bing, bing up this distance. And we wiggled, waggled in here. There was the llama head right there. We pulled back. We came up to the signal. And then we dropped back to first base. Everybody see that? Body of the llama, there's the neck, bing, 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 the head of the llama, then the llama throws up. Blah, blah. Now what's fascinating about the pattern up top, Adam, is that the geometry is identical. The geometry is identical. The size of the moves, all of it. Here's what I mean by that. Jay, watch. Ready? I'm just going to hit copy paste. You see that triangle right here? It exists because I copied it and pasted it. And JD, look, I'm going to put it right there. And then Adam, look, this one exists because I copied it and pasted it. You see what I did there? The width, the height of that channel is the same. And then the same thing over here. Watch, copy, paste. So these lines right here, Adam, are the same height. See it, brother? That gap is identical. this right here and this right here, all of it is the same. There is nothing unique or different about it. And Melissa, what have we been waiting for? Blah, blah. The puke. We got the first part, Adam. It came all the way down to here. And then it snuck up. But it never completed. It never completed the pattern. And I was upset. But historically, I learned something about myself. When I make these YouTube videos, I always get shaken by one little thing that was different and totally abandon my analysis, which ends up being right. So I haven't made any comments about it. I haven't lost the faith, but first base gets touched before the new high ever gets put in. And first base right now is down at 24.11. It's down here. And Carrie, remember what we were just looking at with the solar cycles? JD, remember the pattern that we were just looking at? What were we expecting? Something like that, right, bro? So I have not given up on this over here. I just simply haven't. So I am keenly watching for a touch of first base, because that should launch the revolution, right? That should launch the revolution back. Historically, when are we looking for that to happen? Do you notice what's happening around these price levels, Adam? How these moves, like the last move here, triggered that down move? That little pattern 3 red dot right there came just before the fall. How the green dot here was a pattern 5 just before the fall. The pivots seem to be around the time cycle markers, right? Right up to and including what happens here. So I want to just for a moment kind of direct our attention to something. And here's my thought. When is a phase 4 a bottom? When is a phase 4 a bottom? A phase 4 is a large red dot. That's the next phase. Adam, we're expecting consolidation, a stop run, and then a run up, right? Our solar cycle analysis seems to think that. This analysis seems to think that. When's the next phase? Well, it's coming in 3 days. Okay. I want you to look with me real quick. And Carrie, can you see this, Jamie Jami? Adam, do you see how there was a plunge candle here? And that candle turns out to be the low. But what color is above it? It's red. What the hell? It's a pattern 4. It's at the bottom. It's a lower low red dot. But do you notice, Carrie, take a look with me, ready? There was a pullback a run up. There were two big wicks right there. And then Adam, do you see how it plunged down? Dinked around. And then Jay, there was a big push down and then a return halfway into the zone. Where did we just talk about something like that happening? No, I'm sorry I closed it, but not really because it's a pain in the ass. We just did that. I'm starting to see them everywhere, Carrie. It's freaking me out, to be honest with you. Let's see if Ninja actually kept the workspace. Nope. I have this wonderful feature in NinjaTrader 8 where no matter what workspace you save, it never comes back. All right, well, forget that. JD, this is the pattern that we were just looking at on the solar cycle, right? The double top breakdown, the plunge into the pattern 4, carry, the stop run, and then the push back halfway, right? But Adam, look at what triggers the push up. It's a phase 4. Now I want you to look at that, and I'm going to make the box smaller here. Look at this pattern right here. Okay, Adam, can you see that? Now, come with me. Come on, boys and girls. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Adam, look at those two patterns and tell me if there isn't something similar going on there. And I'll take out my little crazy pink, pretty in pink lines right here. Yeah, that was a pretty in pink reference. Okay, and I'll even take out that stuff. Can you see it yet? Right here is the same oh hell, just use the orange arrows, Lydic. Right here is the same. Remember, the banks don't have any imagination. They run the same plays, and they don't think you'll remember what they did last time. You see it now? Good morning, Jason. Gonna show you some patterns here today. I'm so happy you're in my webinar. It's so good that you're here. We're gonna look at how the banks screw people. I just want you to key in on it. Now, what makes this possible? Adam, what makes it possible is we know when the phases are, right? No one else has this. No one else knows to look at what happens when there's a little red dot, because no one else has the little red dot, because no one thinks the banks do this. And so, Adam, I've been expecting, what have I been expecting? The touch of this black line right here. And they're running the play. Here's the play. Ready? Two little wicks. I get giddy when I see this stuff. And I hope when you're watching at home later, you'll get giddy too. JD, see the two little wicks right here? End of all hope. Tim, end of all hope. Probes. Did we get everybody? Did we get everybody? And then the drop. Now, JD, how big is the drop? Is this a monster drop candle right here? Let's start making some measurements, right? So we remember that this, if we create a new triangle down, is about as far as we expect it to go. So I'm going to take this triangle right here, Adam, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it where those two little red wicks were. All right, let's do it even better than that. Hold on. We have this black line. I'm going to move it up here. And Adam, I'm going to put it at the top of these two wicks, right? So I'm going to move my first base up here because these two little red wicks anchor it, right? So over here, I'm going to take my black line, and JD, I'm going to put it right there. You with me? So I'm recreating what took place where these orange arrows are. Now I have a home base, and Adam, I'm going to put it up here, but I don't know how far away to put it, right? I don't know how far away to put it, so I'm going to use my channel tool, my trend tool, and I'm going to do this. And now, Tim, over here, I'm just going to replicate that spacing, right? And now the spacing is replicated right there. You see what I did? We're using the plays from the banks that they've run in the past. Okay, so now, Tim, I'm going to get the bottom. I'm going to find the bottom. Ready? We have this blue line, the home base line. And now, JD, look, I'm going to touch it right there. Do you see that? That's our red line right here. We'll go ahead and drag this now, or copy it. And Adam, I'm going to put it just below our blue line. Okay, everybody with me? So we're focused in on this pattern right here. We're focused in on this pattern right here. This play that the banks are running. It starts with a phase 3 and then ends with the phase 4. Panic. Probe, panic. Everybody's safe. Ah! Roller coaster goes down one last time. Has anyone ever been on a roller coaster where you think the ride's over and then they throw one last little loop-de-loop, one last drop in there, Adam, before the ride finishes to make sure every little poop ball is out of your colon? This was an awesome ride. I'm so glad. This was an awesome ride. I'm so glad we did this. We didn't have the second drop, the final drop of the ride. That area, JD, is here. What does any of this have to do with the flux? The signals, the dots, are what give us the pattern. We know where to look because of when. So right here, Carrie, that black line, this first base that I was waiting for the market to pull back to, it's still on the table. Because of the puking llama, Melissa, and because of the double dip roller coaster. Puking llama double dip. So that's what I'm watching over here. That puts us 2412, 2410, 2407, 2408. So 2408 to 2412. Back down in that area. Any questions about the ES with the daily cycle marker tool? I'm going to go ahead and save this workspace. NinjaTrader 7 will actually keep it, which is fascinating. Well, Michael, you have a cropped workspace in NinjaTrader 8, and it's not something we could anticipate, so it's not our fault that the workspace was not saving. You see, it was a problem. Only you are having this problem. Across 10 million users, it's only you. So don't tell anyone it was anybody else, because it wasn't, we swear. Why are there German accents coming out of me today? It might be, never mind. Not going there. Okay. Take care, Adam. In 3 days, red dot, which behaves like a green dot. In 3 days, a probe down into the low. Whew. Now, we did one of these for crude. When I did it, some of you listened, and some of you doubted me. And if you doubted me, good for you. Always question. On our YouTube channel, we did a video a week ago or so entitled Oil Futures, A Tale of Two Patterns. I'm going to make sure you get that link in your chat box, because we did the same thing that we did today, but then. And can everybody see my screen right now? This was our puking pattern in CL, Melissa, right? And at the time, we had theorized that crude was going to be up in here. Here's the head of the llama. There's the feet of the llama and the neck. I think this was the puking llama. So, Jay, can you see the body of the llama here? Here, we'll draw an ear real quick. And then we had that same pattern here. There was the body of the llama, the neck. There's our ear. And then, can you see that we were waiting for the llama to spit, JD? We were waiting for that. And I posted this video to YouTube, and people came on and said, there's no way, crude is going higher, it's going higher. This pattern, Gann, if you were a student of Gann, if you were a true student of Gann, you would realize this was a big retracement. It has to be up from here. Okay? And so, being a kinder, gentler version of me, I said, let's wait and see. Maybe I was wrong. Well, I want you to see, if you haven't already, what happened to crude. here we go. Boom. You will notice that the llama puked. Plot. He spit. And a lot of you made a lot of money. And so we were waiting for this ejection, and there was the ejection right there. Now, will it go up from here? I don't know. I have no idea. The pattern as of right now has, well, let's take a look. You can't say I don't know, Michael. No one wants to hear I don't know. They want to hear that you know. It's mid-puke. Let's take the moving average off for a second. Let's take the moving average off for a second. Okay. In the first version of this, we had, and I'm only showing here the pattern 4s and the phase 4 and phase 2s. In the first version of the pattern carry, we had a phase 4 that was broken through. And then, JD, look, it broke out of the head of the llama, hit underneath its jaw, and then the phase 4 came and it dropped. Right? So the phase 4s, we can get a sense for what happens. The first time it breaks through, the second time it consolidates before carry, and then it drops. So let's take a look over here. The first time we see the phase 4, it breaks through. The second time, carry, look, underneath the jaw of the llama, and then when the phase 4 gets here, it drops. So one of the things that I'm concerned about involves the following, or one of the things that my attention is focused on right now, is that JD with crude, when it first broke out in the pattern that we've been following, it consolidated under the jaw of the llama. I know it sounds weird. Stick with it. Carrie, can you see over here how it broke out and consolidated under the jaw? It used that consolidation pattern. Here, it fell away so far that we never really had a retest of that area. Okay? It just dropped right out of it. So as we come into the phase 4, one of several things is going to happen. And this is where I'd like your attention and your focus to be right now. Adam, JD, Carrie, Melissa, a phase 4 is either a what or a what on this chart. A phase 4 turns out to be either an A, fill in the blank, or a B, fill in the blank. A top or a bottom. Right? Looking back, it's either a top or a bottom. And so there's really no middle ground here. Now the close of that bar seems to, or the location of price seems to indicate many times whether or not that's going to be the case. And so I'm a little nervous about the pattern that we're seeing right here. I'm not sure what the phase 4 is going to do to us because we didn't have this pullback and then the drop. Yep. Okay. Well, we'll change over to 1017 here in a little bit, but I want to stay with the 917 pattern. Before we go. Okay, so this is July, August of this year. This is July, August of last year. And you can see that pattern came in September, October. I'm going to go back. July, August, September, October. And I'm looking for the puking llama. July, August, September, October. I don't see it here. I'm going to go back one more year. July, August, September, October. It's upside down in this one too. This is when oil was at $118 a barrel. Wow. But here's a similar pattern. No. All right. I went fishing. I didn't get a bite or a nibble. I'm going to just leave it. When I don't understand it, I'm just going to leave it until I figure out something else. We're going to go expect, you know, when price doesn't reach up to an expected price line and then falls away, what about not reaching all the way up to the chin? Carry, it means that there's a very bullish, a very bearish behavior pattern right here. If it didn't make it up to test, then there's a good chance that phase 4 pushes this thing down. There's a good chance this thing pushes this thing down. But as of right now, we don't have a pattern 4 in place. It's not a lower low. By the time we get to the third candle, we'd have to break this low. So if we break this low by the phase 4 in 3 days on Monday, then there's a good chance this thing behaves like the S&P and rockets back up. Okay. We also want to know when we get to the phase 4 day, JD, when it arrives, there is a monstrous chance that we get one of these. Just the big puke. Blech. So we can look at the day before. When you get to that phase 4 day, look at where the low of the day before was, and you're just going to see it drop if it follows that pattern. Okay. Now, we do have some clues about where this might be using the geometry of the original pattern, and we've talked about this. We have the back of the llama right there. You see that, JD? The back of the llama comes all the way down to where that little mofo kicked in. So if I connect the highs right here, JD, check that out, right? So if I come over here and do the same thing, there's another line that's going through right there. See it? Carry? That's the same angle, the same line. What I'm trying to figure out is the geometry that shaped and determined this right here. what causes that trigger. And so I want to look, and I'm going to see if I can find it here for us. I know there's one here. There it is. That's the one. Okay. So, JD, check this out. I found it. I found it. I never doubted it. Check it out. Ready? We had there, 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 and then J. Here, 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 and then here, and then the test right there. So this blue line ran through the hump of the llama and was part of the breakdown to the left. So I'm going to copy this line. Dang it. I'm going to copy this line, and I want to see if there's anything similar over here. There it is. Carrie, do you see it? Sorry when I laugh maniacally on the videos, but dang! Okay. Woo! Check it out. The touches, look right there. Get rid of these other circles so they don't confuse what's going on. Carrie, there's the touch. And then as we slide along, we'll see the rejection there. As we slide along, you'll see the rejections. The retest after, the retest around B. The retest around B and the break above. And then right here is where I'm interested. All right, there it is. You doubt yourself. Why do you doubt yourself? It's because of your mom. Not your mom, my mom. So I'm worried about this circle right here. Carrie, we're working on it. We're getting better. Better than I used to be. So if we look at CL, this is the line, Jay, that we're focused on right now, and we're below. This helps frame everything. This guy, we'll make it thick, like a milkshake. Mom milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. Here we go, solid. Now, relative to this pattern that we've been looking at, we'll go ahead and pull the box back out. You can see why that level is critical and why I was feeling anxious about not knowing where it was. Okay? So here, that angle corresponds. Where is it? Find it right there. So Jay, do you notice how when I get it right, the angle causes all these other touches here? Right here. So the first place I should see any resistance is the second iteration of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that trend channel like we did with the ES, and I'm going to move it down here. Yep, and there it is, Carrie. See it? Where that green dot is? Okay. Whew. Gosh darn it.
It's like pulling blood from a rock. So the resistance line, if it retests anything, is on the 09 contract anyway, up at 47.97. If it retests anything. If not, the phase 4 should drive us down into the blue line. Okay, that's my CL analysis, and I'm sticking with it. Any questions about this? Because we have one for gold too. How many of you remember the webinar where we did the analysis for gold using the Flux Daily Cycle Markers tool? Carrie, what did we say was going to happen in gold? Well, there's a bunch of arrows here. What did they imply? The bunch of arrows seem to imply that we were going to move higher. I'm sorry. I'm just in the zone. I see this stuff in my Cheerios in the morning. It's everywhere. You just gotta look. And so we were expecting gold to go here. I will connect all those arrows. And we were telling everyone the move was going to start right here. And so at that time, we were here at 1264. Where are we now? 1301, 1302. Now, Chuck says, Leidick, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? Make the magic happen. Again. Okay. Fair enough. So, Chuck, what I want you to notice, and guys, this is all seriousness. Everybody be serious now. Be serious. What happens when we get to the phase 4 at the end of a run-up? One of two things, right? What happens when we get to the end of the phase 4 at the end of a run-up? Look at where the red dots are on the chart. And Chuck, you'll notice when we get to these arrows, and these arrows represent what gold has done historically, right? It's how far the banks usually move it. There appears to be, when you look at it really quickly, Chuck, there appears to be, let's get rid of these rectangles real quick. The banks seem to go into either a shear drop or a vibration channel. So Chuck, here's an example of a shear drop. Let's just put it up there. And again, I apologize for being silly. I know this is very serious for a lot of you. Just, I surprise myself sometimes. And my wife doesn't give me attaboys and has no idea what we're doing. So you're the only people I get to talk to about this. Shear drop, chop. And Chuck, this is chop with a shear drop. And the next one is chop. And the next one had chop too for a number of days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So it looks like when gold gets to the high, and my prediction was that they would trip out this stop right here at this high. If I remember what the video was when I said it. My prediction was, Chuck, that they were going to trip out this stop. And they were going to trip out this stop. See it there, guys? Ladies? Chuck, we know the day it's going to come, right? We know the day the phase 4 gets here. Computer's telling us 3 days, 8 hours. We're moving into a selling pressure time where the market either chops and goes down a little bit or goes straight down. What do the banks need if they're going to go short? What do the banks need from retail traders all over the world, millions of them, if they're going to go short? What do people have to do? They need sellers, or they need buyers, right? They're going to be selling into the high. Well, who's going to be buying what they're selling? People who are watching that breakout. People whose broker calls them and says, "Oh, hey, Carrie, yeah, this is Bill over at Edward Jones. I was looking at your portfolio here, and it looks like gold's getting ready to break out, man. People are going to buy gold, dude. You're going to miss out on this." And everybody's loading up, and they're watching that high going, "Oh, man, here we go." And I'm just looking at the pattern. And Chuck, it appears to me, just based off of how far gold usually moves, that they're kind of running out of steam. And that last arrow right here, this ding-a-ling right there, might be the one that they go to. And that has us at 1322.6. Okay. Everybody with me so far? Because it's about to get real in here. It's about to go down, Melissa. Ready? Okay. So we have the daily cycle markers here. And I'm going to just delete everything but the arrow tools. I'm going to leave the arrow tools. Okay. Get rid of that. No, we'll leave that. No, we'll get rid of it. I want to show them how to do it. And don't worry, we're about to look at a bunch of histograms, look for a bunch of setups and signals. You're going to be so sick of signals by the time we're done. You'll wish you never logged in if you haven't wished that yet already. Okay, so I'm going to put all 4 phases of gold back in, meaning we'll see 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so here's everything. We have the phase 4, the phase 1, the phase 2, the phase 3. If we look at the progression, look at the narrative, what have the banks done? We had a higher high green dot carry right here. That's a pattern 5. So the market fell from the phase 4. They allowed this green dot to be penetrated to trip out the stops. They stood on the sideline, let everybody drop it down, and they took out this stop right here. See it? Now, JD, this is important. Do you see the gap of the stop run? I want you to notice that. Okay? I want you to look here, Carrie. See this? You see the gap of this stop run? These are important things. So I want us to think like a bank now, right? I want you to think like a bank. I want you to look at the previous highs and lows and think, well, how far do these bastards push through when they push through and freak people out, right? So look for those examples. Look for those examples, like right here, where they punch through a previous high. Okay, let's look for all-time highs back when they were over here. So JD, check it out. Ready? You can see it afterwards, plain as day. But the thing is, nobody thinks it's going to happen again. Right? They think, well, they'll never run the stops again. That's the only time in history that they'll ever do that. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm harvesting that data. This is a stop-run exertion analysis. And Carrie, I'm just going back and seeing when they ran the stops in the past, how high did they run the stop? Chuck, does that make sense? We'll do one more and then we'll start collecting. This was pretty big, this one here. That's what she said. So, any more that are obvious to me that are stepping out? That are sticking out? Oh, we got one here to the bottom. You could have done that too, Lydic. You don't got to be focused on the top all the time. Here's another one here. Okay, so let's do this. I'm just gonna start measuring and let's start keeping track. 31, 12, 25. I'm gonna keep a tally over here. 12, 31, 25. 37, 11, 17. Okay, this is good. 7. Okay. I want to do this one. 19. This one. 20. Uh, 17. Okay. Thank you for indulging me. 17. 15. Anybody starting to see a pattern? 30. 13. 10. And that's it. Okay. So the numbers that we've gotten: 12, 31, 25, 37, 11, 17, 7, 19, 20, 17, 17, 15, 10. Jay, do you see which numbers are tending to appear in the middle? The mean. You have the little guys. And then you have the middle. And then you have the outliers. The outliers are here. And this is what happens almost every time. You have ones that are in the middle, that are the mean, and then you have the littlest exertion levels, and then you have the big ones, the outliers. It happens every time you do an exertion analysis. I don't care if you master any technique, this is a good one to master. So let's apply it. 15 and 17, 10, let's do 10, 17, and 30. Ready? Find our lines. Find our highs. Okay, so let's make a 17 tick block. We'll measure it. There's 18. Here, we'll do 17 and a half. How about that? No, we'll just do straight out 17. Stick with the program, Lidic. Okay, so Carrie, this box represents our red numbers. So Chuck, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it right here, and we're going to make it red because I'm a gangster. Okay, now we want one for the green, or the blue rather, 7 to 10. So we'll do 8. Okay, so this will be our minimum. And then Chuck, our outlier is 30 to 37, 25 to 35, let's just say. And those are the pink ones. $25 to 35, so we'll do 25 to 35. Let's just call it 30. Okay, so all three of these are possible. The one that really kind of rises, though, is the red one. That's the one that's probable, because it happens the most often. The mean, right? The median? Median. Mean. One of those. Now, Melissa, I've got these boxes here. I've got Social Security in a lockbox. A lockbox. And I want to see if the banks left us any clues about where they're going. Now, I worked as an analyst for an investment fund for a year, and they left me alone in the building for a long time. And Carrie, I like to doodle. And I would encourage you to doodle on your charts, because when you do, you'll see that there are clues all over the place. And Melissa, I've got these 3 boxes right here, right? And I'm trying to figure out if there's anything telling me where the market's going next. How might I figure that out? We do it every week, right? You know the answer. You can say it. God, I set it up for you and everything. We use resonant angles. And I want you to start looking for them. I want you to start looking for them because they're everywhere. A lot of you have the software that'll do this automatically. So Jay, what I'm watching for is I'm looking for places where the market has followed this trend line, right? But you and I know that it's not really a trend line in the traditional sense, that it can kind of appear out of nowhere. Okay, so the first one is here. The second one, I'm just going to copy paste and watch. If I push it up, Chuck, if I push it up slightly higher, you'll notice that it starts to contain a bunch of other highs and lows. So Chuck, like right here, don't tug on Superman's cape. So Chuck, can you see that touch right here? That touch right here. These 2 touches right here. And then this touch right here. Okay. Now, copy it and paste it again. And now, Melissa, I'm going to push it up. Push it real good. And I'm going to bring it over here. Right there. And Chuck, I want you to watch. This is important. No joking around. Chuck, do you see these touches right here? To the tick? And what happened over here? The banks leave clues behind. Every market has a resonant angle. Every market is vibrating. When you find the resonant angle, this all opens up. And it's all related to time. All of it is related to time. And anyone who tells you, it's volume, shut up. It's all time. You tell them I told you to tell them to shut up. Look at the angle, Chuck. You see all I'm doing is copying the same darn line, right? So we already kind of know off to the right, to the upside. If you're looking for targets, look for your angles up to the right. And so now, Chuck, I want to have a sense of what the market does around these lines, right? When we get in these zones, what does it do? Does everything look like it's neat, right? How many of you are neat freaks or live with a neat freak and everything is organized? Anybody? We just organized gold rather. We just organized our gold pantry. And so, Chuck, we had an idea of where gold should go if it trips out the stop, right? We had an idea of where gold should go if it trips out the stop with these rectangles. Okay, that was one method, an exertion analysis. But now we've used this resonant angle analysis. And Chuck, here's what I notice. When we come knocking on heaven's door, like over here, Chuck, look what happened the last time we closed above the line right here. See it? When it closed above this line, where did it go? Up to there. Now stay with me. Hang on. Hold on to the reins. Ready? Melissa, what does it mean when the market goes through a red dot? What does it mean when the market goes through a red dot? What usually happens when the market goes through a red dot? And Carrie, are there any similarities to what happened back over here, Chuck, and what's happening right here when we use the daily cycle markers? Steve's got it. He's locked into it like a jackal. It goes from here, Chuck, breaks through 40 bucks, and then it breaks through again 25 bucks. Right? So Chuck, look, it started at this bottom line last time. Melissa, it started at this bottom line last time. So what are the two active lines? Right here and right here. So Chuck, where are we headed to at least? At least we have to go there. The pantry is organized. Where does the Spanish spice container go in the pantry? 1309.5. Okay, but we know that's not the end of the story. We know it's not. How do we know? Because in 3 days there's a red dot coming. How far did it go last time, Chuck? I'll take that, thank you. Tim, look at where the arrow ends up. Right there. Look at it. And look at where that other red arrow is right there. The one we drew. Michael, 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 Michael. Ah. Any questions? When you look at it now, do you feel like you're in control? Steve, when you look at it now, do you feel like, I think I know what they're going to do? I got a pretty good idea. I think I know where it's going. Yeah, I saw it, Steve. We have a relatively good idea. Now, Melissa, you see where those two gray, you see where the gray arrow ended up where the red arrow ended up and where the red box is. Okay. When we have two lines that are far apart, inevitably, what is between the two lines? And we have two major lines. If they're daily cycle marker lines, if they're resonant angle lines, if they're 60-minute flux lines, FPC lines, what's the most powerful retracement according to Gann? That's the one. Melissa, Melissa. Doesn't sound the same. I don't like it. We got to go back to Michael. All right. So now check it out. I'm going to take this blue line. And now Chuck, I'm going to come down here. And we're going to draw a 50% retracement between the two. And we'll make it dashed. We'll make it gray. And we'll make it that. Now, Melissa, all along this line, we should see evidence of rejection at the 50%, right? Chuck, check it out. Ready? Rejection, 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 close near, rejection, Melissa, rejection, 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 rejection. You see all that activity along that line, guys? Ladies? Rejection, rejection. Bob, I'm doing it all by hand because if I showed people that other program, their heads would go. It would explode like a watermelon at a Gallagher concert. So what I want you to see, Melissa, is when this move occurred, everybody follow me, ready? When this original move occurred, Tim, look, it went up to the 50% line right here. Can you see that? The first time this happened, it went up to the 50% line. The second time, that's what we're expecting, up to the 50% line. That would be a stop run, and that would be glorious. And if you're an options trader, you might want to explore a put when we get up into that area, 1328, 1330, 1323, because everybody in the world is going to be buying and no one's going to be looking for the short, right? It might be an inexpensive option. I don't know how that works, honestly. And again, it's not a recommendation, just something you might want to research. Okay. So, Chuck, all of this is studying when the banks launched from this launch pad. Let's say this blue line is Cape Canaveral. When they launched a rocket from Cape Canaveral, how high does that rocket usually go? How high does the satellite get into space before it starts falling back to Earth? Melissa, you can even do it down here. You see that phase 4 right there? It's not green, it's red, right? But it's a pattern 4. It's a lower low red dot. And right here, where does it go? Right up to this crazy 50% line, right? So Chuck, it's going to make it to the gray line or the blue line in gold. Gray line or blue line by Monday, Tuesday of next week is my guesstimate. And the first resistance point will be today at 1308 to 1308.9, 1309 area will be the first resistance point if you're a counter trend person.